Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Noelle and in this video I'm sharing the process for my Lilac Sunset Waves painting. I applied masking fluid onto my paper using a regular old toothpick. The masking fluid in my bottle was starting to dry and become thick, so while I was complaining to my sister about it, she suggested that I try mixing it with water. I tried that and tested it before applying it to my painting, and it worked fine. Then I taped the edges of my painting and began painting the sky. The sky started as a layer of clear water, and then I slowly added color and blended it all together. I like to start with my lightest and weakest colors first, so I worked from yellows to pinks and lastly to blues. There is a strip of purple clouds near the horizon line that I included in this wash, but I will be painting it darker later. The first layer of the water section is very similar to paint in the sky. In fact, it should somewhat resemble the sky like a mirror. I used the same colors and process, but this time I am less fussy with making clouds and more focused on a smooth gradient from yellow to purple. The section at the bottom of the piece is meant to resemble wet sand, so I tried to make it have some cool streaks of purple and overall appear a bit darker than the water. I liked how it looked while the paint was still wet, however it dried lighter than I anticipated. That's one of the reasons why watercolors have some pigments have a strong color shift. One way I like to paint distant waves is to use the dry brushing technique and make the paper do the work rather than stippling little dots and lines. It always helps to use textured paper, but I have also been able to get some of this texture using hot pressed paper, but I have to rely on the speed of my brush more. Next, I added more details to the larger waves and some shadows for the soon-to-be sea foam. In addition to the sea foam floating above the sand, I also added some rounded streaks to resemble thin waves. I thought I wanted to repaint the sky because I wanted it more vibrant until I realized I liked the softer pastel look more. To fix this, I removed the new layer of paint by lifting it with a tissue before it dried. The masked areas protect where I will be painting the sea foam. I am using a rubber cement pickup to remove the masking fluid. This cotton paper is really durable, so I'm not worried about ripping it while doing this, but I'd have to be a lot more careful if this was cellulose paper. Waves are tricky things to draw and paint, and I wouldn't recommend this type of painting for a beginner. I feel like it is tempting to try and paint waves without practicing from references, but waves do some funky, unexpected stuff, so as an unexperienced wave painter, it's handy to paint from a reference, which I will link in the description below. Side note, if you are curious about what supplies I am using, they are also listed in the description below, including what colors I'm using and which brand. Back to the clouds, I intended this cloud to be light and smooth, however it didn't exactly turn out that way. I started a little too dark and found myself lifting the paint multiple times. I think I tried to mess with it too much and ended up making the clouds look a bit splotchy. It's not the end of the world, but that would be something I'll keep in mind for a similar piece. If you enjoyed watching this video, consider giving me a thumbs up or subscribing to my channel. For art supplies I use and recommend, you can visit my Amazon storefront list, link in the description. I'll receive a commission from items purchased following the link. You can find me on my social media. I'm the most active on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching and make it a great day.